Hello and welcome. Today we are going to deploy an Angular application in Amazon S3 bucket. If at all you are not aware, Amazon S3 bucket is a storage service and it allows you to host a static website as well. So even before we start, there are certain prerequisites. You must have AWS account, and you should have an Angular application which is ready to be deployed in production. For the demonstration purpose, I have a sample application which I will be deploying in S3 bucket. So this is my sample application, and what it does is if this is my landing page, so I go here and try to give my user ID and the password, and when I log in, it gives me just give me a hello message. And the process we are going to follow is briefly here. First thing is, this is my local machine and I have an Angular application, and I build this application and try to deploy this application in Amazon S3 bucket. Now just copying these artifacts in the S3 bucket is not sufficient, so I also need to enable the static website hosting on this machine. So I need to make certain configuration changes. Then last but not the least, I will have to provide certain permissions to the end user. So as you know that this is a static website which is hosted here, and the user can access this website from anywhere, and those are anonymous users. Here you need to make certain changes in the configuration so that the external users are able to access your website, and these are called as policies in AWS. So let's get started. First thing, here is my AWS account. So I go here, I log into this account, and I go to services and I type S3. Now this is the place where I need to create a S3 bucket. So as I mentioned before, the overall process of deploying this application is going to be a 5-step process. First one, you build your application locally and generate these artifacts or the distribution package which we will be deploying in S3 bucket. So we need to create a S3 bucket. Then we go and deploy these static content to this S3 bucket. The next one is to enable S3 bucket for a static website hosting, and the last one is to change the permissions for this S3 bucket so that external users are able to access this website. So first thing first, we need to build the application. So this is my application, and what I need to stop the server first to build the application. So this is the command to generate a distribution package. Done. So once this build command is successful, you will find a distribution or dist folder in your project. All you need to do is to go and check this location. Here I go, and you see that these files are generated. Ultimately, these are the files which we intend to deploy in Amazon S3 bucket. But one important thing here, normally you will find that there are 2 environment files in your project. So make sure that if you are using some constants or anything here in the environment or TS file, you ensure that those are copied in the environment.prod.ts, because prod is the one which is going to be used by this application. Okay, yeah, so the next thing, build is done. As a next step, we have to create S3 bucket. So I will go to AWS console for this. Let me open the console. So here is the console. I go and I click on the create bucket, either here or here. So click on create bucket. This will bring this page. Give a unique name to this bucket. If the name already exists, then AWS will throw or warn you. So I'll just go ahead and create a bucket. Forget about all these configurations. We have to make the changes one by one. Here we go. So the bucket is created. Let's see the next step. So as a next step, we have to deploy our static content, which we build as a first step to this bucket. So now I go to this bucket, and here we have upload option. Click on the upload option, and here you can see that you can drag and drop the files. So I will go to the location which I had built, and I will just drag and drop these files here. And one important thing is, although you are able to see all the files here, it will not be uploaded until or unless you click on upload. Done. So the files are uploaded, and we are done with step 3 of this process. Now the fourth step is to enable the static website hosting. So we go to AWS console, and this is my bucket. I will just try to exit here, and keep a note, this properties section is the one which is very important, and most of the time we will make the changes here. So I go to properties, and then I have to enable the static website hosting. Just look for that option. It is the last option here, static website hosting, and as you can see here, this is disabled by default. What I do is click on edit and just enable. Two more important things. So here, while enabling this static website hosting, you have to provide a default page for this website. And in case of Angular, this is my default page, and since I have not developed a separate error page, I will give the same page as my error page as well. Now, having said that, this should be sufficient to enable the static website hosting. Now let's go to our PPT here. So we are done with step 4. Now what is the next step? Enabling the static website hosting is not sufficient, and the reason behind is the bucket which we have created by default, that is private. So that is how AWS works. When you create any bucket, S3 bucket, by default it is going to be private. So we as we are willing to expose this page's static content to the end user, we must provide at least read access to the end user. Definitely we should not provide the write access, but read access is important so that the users can access your website. Now if you go and search how can you provide a read access to anonymous users for S3 bucket, you will find this page where you can just go through it, but there are two important things here. The first thing, in order to provide read access to anonymous users, you need to add this policy in your S3 bucket. So this is first thing. And second, this line, before you use a bucket policy to grant read-only permission to an anonymous user, you must disable block public access setting for your bucket. Very important, because there are several ways you can make the mistake. I can show you a few of the things, but as I said, let's say that I copy this and I go to this. So you see permissions here. So you have to go on permissions, and you can see that, block all public access. So currently this bucket cannot be accessed by anyone, and as this page says that you must disable that. You must disable block public access setting for a bucket. Otherwise, even if you provide this value, it is of no use. Let me show you that. And keep in mind that you have to follow this in order. If you just go ahead and you try to provide this access without disabling the public access, you will find the problems. So let's try to do that. So let's say that I do not change this setting, so it is still blocked for the end users. I go, and here is the bucket policy. So I go ahead and as you can see, right, I copied this and I pasted here, and you need to change this setting in our case, and this is nothing but the bucket name. So I will just, this is my bucket name, so it just says that inside this bucket provide read access to all the files inside this bucket. Now I go ahead and try to save the changes. You see that you don't have permission to edit bucket policy, and this is because I just revert the process. I will first try to give public access, save changes, confirm. So this is now with this change you are disabling the block public access. It means the public users would be able to access your bucket now. Providing the access is fine, but you don't want your end user to have a write access. You just want a read access. So I go here, I have copied this content here and paste it here, and give your bucket name, and I will try to save now, and here we go. So you see, I mean, the sequence also matters, and that's why I told you that you have to first disable the public access, and then first you disable this public access part, and then you copy and paste this read access policy to this bucket policy section. That's all. I think with this changes we reach to the final step of our deployment, and I would expect this application to work fine. Keep in mind that in the property section you did it right. Once you make your bucket static website hosting, you will get a URL as well. You can see this URL. So with this URL you will be able to access the website. Let's see. Here we go. Now I just give my username and then password, and here we go. It's up and running. So congratulations, you have successfully deployed your. Thank you.